Pay attention to the Hortiguera channel. In today's video, we're going to talk a little bit about the commemorations of D-Day, the Allied amphibious landing on the beaches of France in June of 1944. But before I start, I want to tell you that I'm Commander Robinson-Farinazzo, a retired Navy officer. This is the Hortiguera channel, a vehicle for military, strategic, and geopolitical analysis with a professional focus. So for those of you who are just joining us, like, comment, share. And if you can, help with the super sticker or super chat. With that said, let's get to our topic. Today marks the 80th anniversary of the amphibious assault that liberated France. It was quite a long campaign. In fact, the landing took place on the 6th, but the campaign for the liberation of Paris ran until August 25th. So we have almost 3 months of operations. And what happens? 25 heads of state were invited. Russia was not invited. We understand it's because of the war in Ukraine. But here's the thing, that's not the whole story. Even without being asked from Russia, it can be understood. What cannot be understood is the Anglo-American press, the attempt to minimize the role of the Soviet effort in the Second World War, which was massive. That's the truth. Over 27 million citizens of the Soviet Union lost their lives fighting Nazism. Russians, Ukrainians, many Ukrainians, Kazakhs, Chechens, all sorts. All nationalities were represented in the Soviet army. It was a multinational army. They bore the brunt of the Second World War. That's the truth. It must be remembered that while the Normandy campaign is occurring, it begins on the 6th of June. 16 days later, the Soviets initiated Operation Bagration, which resulted in the destruction of the Central German Army Group, one of the most powerful the German army groups had. It's shameful how the almost Euro-alienated, almost 1984 style West wants to erase the role of Soviet forces. And Joe Biden talks about democracy and a free world while he condones the genocide in Gaza. It didn't really go down well. Normandy and Gaza don't match up. What's happening here? You criminalize Russia on one hand for invading Ukraine, but on the other, you don't even mention the Israel case. So it's a double standard that history will charge us with. We have no doubt about it. Since it's a historical event, we need to remember it will take time, lots of it, for this generation to pass away. And the next generations will question this questionable stance of the American government celebrating the combat against the Axis powers in World War II, all the slaughter they committed, the Holocaust, etc., while Israel perpetuates similar actions in Gaza. This double standard is indeed very sad. And we need to remember that the war waged by Germany in the East was savage. It was effectively a war of extermination against the Soviet people. 70% of the German army, some of its best divisions, the bulk of the equipment, was operating in the East against the Soviets. So if the press wants to say, if Hollywood wants to say that the war was won in Normandy, please, less of this. We know it wasn't there. It was important. The Allied campaign in Normandy was very important, but it was not decisive in any way. It tries to sell to the public that knows less about these two facts, that the war was won in Normandy and that Russia only won in the East because of the American Lend-Lease. Lend-Lease never accounted for more than 15% to 20% of the Soviet Union's logistical efforts in World War II. The war in the East was won by the bravery and sacrifice of the Soviet people, of all nationalities. It's a shame Joe Biden forgets that.